Simulation theory, you know about it, of course you do. But what if it's true? What if everything is a lie? Everything illusion? It's all a game, it's all a game.
Simulation theory. It's the belief that you, the people you love, the world around you, and everything you know is all fake, completely fabricated for one reason or another. And there would be nearly no way to tell the difference, right? Well, I'm sure Starr Corporation would definitely like you to know that you aren't in a simulation, but do note that if you notice peculiar things like strange RGB auras glitching around you, people clipping through objects, or employees looping the exact same poses for hours on end, then you should probably just ignore that and accept them as part of your reality. Brawl Stars is a simulation, and today we're going to be discussing both how and why that is. Starting off with the obvious, the real world is not a drawing, or a series of various 3D renders. And we know this isn't just a medium being used to tell a story, because one of the biggest parts of all this is filmed in live action, with real actors. And the render points out something similar, saying how things don't seem to be real a lot of the time, obviously alluding to all the stuff that happens within Brawl Stars. Unless you think a giant crow fighting a man in a luchador mask is normal, but in that case, by all means continue, because that's way more interesting than whatever life I'm living. But this world is an absurd fantasy where inanimate objects can come alive right before your eyes, which directly contrasts what we're being told. This is normal, everything is fine, and all the repeated times we're told things are real. The Starr website is a prime example of this. The spaghetti, the snow globe, and the star hat are all labeled as real and say that the site only hosts real items. This keychain accessory on the website is in a .rm file format because .rm stands for real media, and Renter talks about this constantly, saying things like,
Bing, 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 big winner! What'd you win? Another lifetime of pain!
And frequently asks if there's another player out there, saying it's, quote, all a game, and telling us that someone appears to be puppeting his movements, which is where our host from the investor video comes in and outright tells us,
in the future, the children control a 3-5 glowing rectangle.
This is referring to what Brawl Stars is at a basic level, where the players control real people in what is essentially a simulation. But not just any simulation, one which takes place inside the dreams of guests and employees. First off, dreams are mentioned everywhere throughout the lore, such as,
これは夢なのか? 夢がここで生まれます。
That was a dream I had the other day. Dreams can be clues for real life.
or the dream catchers right here and here, and the voice that hears you reinforce this idea with clues such as,
leave this dream and find another dream. Is this a dream? Yes, it is real.
and just the overall idea that you should be sleeping. I'm just going to put them on screen here because there's way too many to count. This is exactly what we saw in the investor video, people sleeping, like our narrator who gets switched at the end, the Mr. P mascot, or this red-headed girl who wakes up after a model of the gate is dropped. Once again, the voice that hears you reinforces this idea with phrases like,
just a friendly reminder that if you're experiencing awakenings, don't. Just don't.
The esports ad where Sandy and Poco's music causes people to go into comatose states, the Star Park TV dinner again, and like a whole ton of lines from the rant, like so many, where he explains to us that there's another world in his mind when he closes his eyes.
Gosh, sometimes it's so clear to me I can't believe everybody's got blinders on out there. Take your blinders off and look around. I just did it and I don't know where I am. I think I heard somebody coming down the hallway, but it could have been just the footsteps in my mind. That was pretend. They haven't come in yet, but I was doing a drill in my mind just to make sure I was ready for it.
This is a great example of the world which is explained to us in The Voice That Hears You, where this brainwashing music seems to be taking people's minds to this simulation.
I cannot even begin to tell you about the places I went to in my head during that last song. I want to, but we're out of time.
As well as all of these, like projecting one's souls across the outer reaches of the galaxy, which I actually think is a double meaning, which not only relates to all the interdimensional shenanigans, but also Project Laser from the 8-bit minigame. And if you're still somehow doubting the existence of two worlds here, just listen to the high-pitched voice outright tell us,
which world are you referring to, friend?
You are correct.
I also think that gems, or rather radiation in the gems, are another way of getting people to sleep, and by extension go into the simulation that is Brawl Stars. If we look at the investor video in the scene where miners are bringing purple gems out of the mines, we can see that they're bringing them up in burlap sacks. And what symbol do the bags have on them? Sandy's closed eye, the brawler which is entirely associated with sleep. Radiation also has the ability to put people into comas and transport their minds into the simulation. And believe it or not, that's actually not the only area where this connection is shown. Remember how we established how spaghetti and the Star TV rations contain radiation in previous episodes? Well, if we look back at the box, what does it say? Do not make eye contact with an asterisk. Asterisks are one way of indicating that there's more important information to read when there's too much to fit in the current paragraph. And what do we see when we go to the footnote at the bottom? Forbid the green gas to escape. Radiation is linked to the eyes because it's what puts people to sleep. Sure, it can make you violent, but too high a dose and you're getting a one-way ticket to Coma Town. I also think that's why there's so much emphasis on teeth and smiling. I'm not gonna lie when I say that most of it is just to try and keep up appearances, but one of the radio hosts says teeth are, well,
Your smile is our window to your soul.
the windows to your soul are typically a metaphor for the eyes, not the teeth, and the mind and soul are kinda synonymous here. I think it's literally the way the mind is transported to that version of Starr Park. That is to say, stuffing your mouth with radiation, causing you to sleep, which is why the WKBRL ad for the rations says,
It's like having a theme park in your mouth.
it's gonna take you there one way or another.
Don't let your teeth hold you back.
And that explains why after the rant is over and after security comes into the room to drag him out, what's left is a half-eaten box of pasta. They needed to shut him up, and the best way of doing that was to make him sleep, using none other than radioactive spaghetti. But that brings up a very important question. If the simulation's key calling card is it being not real, aka drawings and animations, then why is it that the rations exist in WKBRL, aka the simulation? How would you put someone into the simulation if they're already inside it? That doesn't really make sense, does it? And well, I do have an explanation, but this is where you need to pay attention because it gets very, very complicated. From the get-go, these two worlds seem to be mixed. They're not really as separate as you might think. For example, the animation sequence in the investor video, where the animated bee comes alive and flies around the studio. At this point, we all know that this stuff is more real than you can imagine, and this is no different. This isn't a special effect. That bee is real in that universe. Same thing with StarPark.biz. If the site really only hosts real items, then why is this photo of Buzz's swim trunks obviously edited? And last but not least, this scene in the investor video, where the host nearly smashes himself into oblivion by using the pointer on a diorama of the park. Why does that happen? It's like the diorama is in itself a simulation, despite it existing in the quote-unquote real world. Kairos and MatPat were the ones to propose that theory, where they say that the brains of people in the park are in these models, while the bodies are basically mindless, because there's a divide between them. And we've been receiving more evidence of this. For example, Cheen's description, which states that his mind is split between his body and his teapot, just like the people in Starr Park are mindless when their brains are stuck in the brawlers. And then it's referenced again with Colette's hypercharge. What follows her? Her spirit. Remember, the mind and soul are synonyms in this universe, and the fact that they can split seems to be another example of this mind and body separation. And this is overall an amazing theory, and I don't think I could have said it better myself, but I can add to it. I think the simulation isn't quite as simulated as we're led to believe. Let's take a listen to Science's monologue.
Science tells us that an objective universe that exists separate from the seer, subject separate from object, does not exist. The perception that things, any and all things, exist independently of one another, separate from each other, is simply not true.
Apart from being one of the most cryptic pieces of media I've read since I had to take literature in high school, he's describing something called quantum entanglement, which is when two particles are always linked even if they're light years apart. They're both in a superposition of two states, but when one particle separates, it exits the superposition, which affects the other particle no matter how far away it is. I know that might be confusing, so all you need to know is that one thing always affects another when they're linked.
The nature of our situation, as it is explained to us by those on the very forefront of scientific thought, is such that the very act of observing produces a change in the system. The questions that are asked, sometimes subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, affect the way that reality presents itself to us.
This is hands down talking about Schrödinger's cat, that a quantum particle can be in two states at once until it is observed and takes the form of either one. And I think Science's monologue is the key to this whole dilemma. Remember, when are these simulations taking place? during sleep, when you close your eyes, when you aren't observing. What's one of the threats our radio host tells us?
We will only turn the lights off if absolutely necessary.
And then you definitely won't be able to observe the world around you, turning it into a superposition. Two things at once. These two things being both a simulation and the real world. It's like the Enchanted Forest. What does Danny have to say about it in the Brawl Talk?
It is not known if this is truly enchanted or just toxic, or both.
It's both and neither. Look at the very end of the environment, how it's on the border of being both normal and magic. The same world is two things at once, just like the Brawl Talk introduction shows. It's in a superposition of both natural and unnatural, much like the world of Brawl Stars is both real and a simulation. The chair you sit in would cease to exist even if you didn't, because when you view it, the simulation falls apart. That's why Starr Park wants people to sleep. What happens when you wake up while fighting? Lag. It's why the Supergiant Starr Corp logo is shaped like a human person mixed with the Wi-Fi symbol. When someone wakes up, they mess with the signal, and that leads to interference with the simulation. But wait, I hear you saying, quantum mechanics only affects things that are really small. It's not going to affect something as big as a theme park. And yeah, true, but I can explain that too. I'm once again going to bring up Kairos's theory about black holes, because, well, he's like one of the best theorists in the community. He proposed that Starr Park is using black holes to mess with time. I'm not going to repeat his entire video here, but we have stuff like time loops going on in The Voice That Hears You, this coupon which says serving guests 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, Colette's time travel mate campaign, Ranter saying the clock is ticking backwards, and almost every single clock shown being stuck at 10 o'clock. Except the stupid gate, because you just had to ruin the theory, didn't you? And most importantly...
Singularity? Huh? Singularity? Is there an echo in here? No, I said it twice because that's how important it is.
Singularities are found at the center of black holes, and I don't think Starr Park is just using black holes. I think Starr Park is inside a black hole, or at least black holes are the gate to the dimension where Starr Park exists. What is Starr Park's slogan? The place you'll never want to leave. And after you go past the event horizon of a black hole, they are physically impossible to leave. It explains why 8-Bit went through the black hole in this minigame, and why The Voice That Hears You doesn't want you asking where Starr Park is.
And now an hour of the only acceptable way to answer nosy questions like, where is Starr Park?
And that explains how Starr Park is able to be in a superposition of both real and a simulation. Singularities might be particles, and according to Wikipedia, singularities, by definition, are infinitely small and expected to be quantum mechanical by nature. What do the Polish subtitles of the investor video say? Time, space, and geography have their own laws, and the laws of Starr Park seem to be entirely different, kinda like how the traditional laws of our universe don't seem to apply on the quantum level. But of course, there's the question of why? Why make a simulation? And I think there are a couple of reasons. First off, the simulation is used as punishment. I already said how I thought Ranter was force-fed radiation to put him to sleep, but we also have our host and the Mr. P mascot. I think all three of these characters were punished because of what they did. Ranter was punished for telling us the truth. Our host was punished because he broke character, and I think this Mr. P mascot was punished for being part of the mascot union, which explains why he's being yelled at here. They found out he was part of Spewed, and because of that, they sent him to sleep. They yeeted all three of them into Brawl Stars, a simulation where you are being forced to fight, explode, and respawn over and over again, which is a fate worse than death. It breaks your mind and causes you to go insane, and if you don't want to end up the same way, you should probably follow the park's guidelines. The second reason is that it might act as some form of control. Starr Park might be able to influence these simulations to puppet people in the real world. I mean, it's exactly what we see in the diorama. I'm not entirely sure how much control they physically have, but I think it's enough to keep the employees mostly in check. The third reason is to generate money. I mean, it's an evil corporation. Of course, greed is going to be one of their primary motives. The entire purpose of the investor video is to find investors to fund them, and it's pretty obvious they're cheapskates. But the final one also has to do with the dual nature of this world. Why go through all this trouble to mix the worlds and convince people that this world is their home? Well, I think it's because that way, no one has to die. The laws of the simulation also apply to the real world. If they get killed, they can always get back up again. It almost makes you wonder if Starr Park wants to keep people asleep to keep both worlds inside its own superposition, because that's what's safe. As long as the simulation and the real world are indistinguishable, people won't die, they'll just respawn. But the more people wake up, the more people observe, the more these two worlds begin to separate, which means their actions have real-world consequences. People wouldn't be able to respond because the laws of the simulation would no longer apply to both worlds. People stay dead. And those people who have been brainwashed to fight, well, they're still going to want to blow people up with rockets, dynamite, and bombs, and I don't think I have to say why that's a problem. And there's more evidence for that, but in order to get there, we first have to cover our next topic. Skins. Who doesn't love them? They're the best kind of cosmetic and they cater to all kinds of different tastes, right? But how exactly do they fit into the lore? Because you'd think they'd be cosmetic, since we can see them being sold in the gift shop. And well, yes, but I think they have two other attributes to them. First off, I think skins are actual brawlers. Listen to how Ranter describes them.
Who am I? Well, how do you know who you are if your skin keeps changing, Think about that. We got skin swappers over here swapping out skins left and right. They're trading them. They're traitors. Who are you when you look in the mirror if you're not the person you saw yourself yesterday, Somebody else, that's who.
People change their skins and become an entirely different person. People continually ask who they are because it's almost like they've forgotten. For example, 8-Bit missing the files on who or what he is, and of course Colt's line in the Welcome to the Gift Shop animation.
Is that who I am?
I mean, brainwashing isn't a foreign concept in this world. Kairos Time and Tim already ended up confirming that Starr hats were a form of mind control, and News and Weather ended up getting so brainwashed that he ended up forgetting his own name.
Hello and good day. I'm Anchor Name Here. Or am I? The last thing I remember is News Outro cuts him off.
Weather. Yeah,
Oh,
that was news.
yes,
And weather.
I see it did. Oh, thank you. I am a puppet.
And we get another example of this with the second skin ad, which states,
Have the skin of a princess but the heart of a coal miner? Then you might be Mike. Become the calloused, sun-deprived, explosively spectacular you. It's not shape-shifting, it's skin transplanting.
is an example of someone becoming Dynamite, not by shape-shifting, but by covering themselves with a quote, skin, as in Dynamite's default skin. There's a unique person under there, but they seem to change into an entirely different human being. Once again, we can turn to WKBRL for answers by listening to this French skincare ad, which translation says, leave your past behind you. They will stop calling you small and now Daryl. Let the high tide take you to your future. More than a barrel, more than a robot. Leave it all behind you and carry only your skin. For women, for men, and for robots. A long time ago, this was fuel for a theory that Daryl was a kid, which is why he was referred to as small. It explained why he whistled suspiciously and said things that a real pirate wouldn't say, but now we have his official origin. And well, yeah, it turns out he wasn't a real pirate, but it was just because he was lazy and trying to avoid work. So why does it say he was small? Because I think he was once a kid. Confused yet? Good. Remember, what does Kairos Tim not want you to believe with every fiber of his being?
You don't have to worry about becoming a brawler yourself. You don't have to worry about becoming a brawler yourself. You don't have to worry about becoming a brawler yourself.
Starr Park tries to influence people to become brawlers, like these two kids on the Baggage Blaster, and how they were given Leon's lollipop and Nita's bear. I don't think this is the actual Leon and Nita. I think these are two kids who are becoming versions of them. Children who are being indoctrinated to believe that they are these characters. In this video, I briefly talked about how this man probably isn't Bo, and how if these are Leon and Nita's parents, it wouldn't make sense for Bo to be their stepdad, because they're happily married, and divorced couples typically don't go to theme parks together. But if they were just two random kids who are being subtly convinced to believe that they're these characters, then the inconsistencies make total sense. Ever wondered why Spewed is specifically the mascot union? It's a little weird assuming that Jesse and Pam are part of it, considering the Junker Trio set up WKBRL and the wrenches on the Spewed stickers, and neither of them are wearing mascot suits. So why is it the mascot union? Because it's not the mascot suits, it's that these people are becoming brawlers, aka the mascots of the game. It also explains duplicate brawlers. Remember the gift shop in the investor video? What are we shown? 2 Colettes. If only one Colette exists in this world, then why can there be 2 in a match? Because Colette is just a mascot, a skin, a character which real people can become. Do you think it's a coincidence that the skin poster is shown in the same scene where the cashier progressively becomes more and more like Colette? To be honest, I don't think Kairos Tim is a deepfake. If you look closely enough, you can see someone below the projection, someone with brown eyes instead of Kairos' blue ones, and much more defined eyelashes than I remember him having. Not that I typically stare into Kairos' beautiful blue eyes for long periods of time, but I think that this person underneath is wearing a skin of Kairos, and they have physically become a version of him. And it could very well be the same case with this person in the investor video. Or it could be the real Kairos and they brainwashed him before he left. I honestly think it's up to interpretation. And finally, that explains Daryl. It's not that Daryl the character is a kid, but that a kid in this commercial is leaving their past behind and wearing a quote-unquote skin of Daryl. They are becoming a brawler themselves. And this is where I link it back to Karos and MatPat's theory. Remember, they said people are having their minds projected into brawlers, and that's exactly what skins are, empty vessels that can be filled and controlled by us in-game. But we're not done, because skins have one last aspect to them that we haven't covered. Let's go back to the news and weather report starring news and weather.
We have reports, strong reports coming in. There is poison gas circling the arena. The poison gas is closing in from what we understand. That's as far as we know. Now, we have a skin. If you have a skin, I think it would be a great time to wear it. If you're one of the lucky ones with a skin out there, I think it's a good time you put it on. Be cautious, be careful, wear your skin.
He puts heavy emphasis on how we should wear a skin when we're near the green gas. And that definitely seems a bit peculiar if these are just a cosmetic. I mean, that's like if you heard a hurricane was coming and the weatherman told you to put on a party hat. Well, actually Florida does do that, but then again the entire state is insane. Regardless, it's almost like skins protect you. And well, it seems like that because they do. Think about skin in real life. What is its main purpose? It's the body's first line of defense. It protects you from things like sunburns, cuts, and scrapes, as well as germs trying to invade the body. I mean, look at Rosa's super description, the only place in game which mentions a so-called second skin. And what does that super do? It protects you from all sorts of damage as one of the best shields in the game. And last but not least, the Bulgarian bandage ad, which when translated says, hide your many round wounds with second skin bandages, available everywhere where skin is sold. A second skin designed to hide and heal wounds. Skins are literally brawlers. They are your HP. They protect you from knives, bullets, dynamite, and germs, and of course, dangerous poison gas clouds. A line of defense between the body and the soul. And there you have it. Starr Park is in a superposition of both real and a simulation, which is made possible due to the singularity in quantum mechanics. When it's observed, it's real, but when people go to sleep and stop observing, reality changes and their minds are translated into Brawl Stars, where they become brawlers and we're able to control them in-game. In addition, brawlers are skins which are designed to protect the quote-unquote soul in this reality, all while Starr Park continually brainwashes them to believe that they're whatever brawler they look like. And for now, that's all. But if you did like the video, feel free to press all the buttons, you know how YouTube works, and make sure to tune in next time, where we'll be diving deep with another theory on this chaotic world. But until then, thanks for watching, and make sure to have a day as bright as the stars.